Well, I got here way too early, Lieutenant Commander. So what the hell am I going to do for the next hour? And since I'm waiting at the train station, we are going to have a little bit of Watership down, That's right. Watership down. This is the raid. I believe this is part 3. So since I am sitting here for the next 40 minutes or more, let's see if we can finish this blasted thing, Part 3. The hutch rabbits looked at... Should I even do that voice? Wow. Oh boy, it's going to kill my voice. All right. The hutch rabbits looked at each other in bewilderment. It was plain they were afraid of the great bristling buck with the strange stalk of fur and his smell of fresh blood. They did not know what to do or understand what was expected of them. Damn, look at all that gray. Holy cow. Damn. Let me start this thing up and put the AC on. It's getting hot out here. Okay, here we go. All right, we'll continue. They remembered Hazel. They had been excited by forcing the door and curious to come through once it was open. Otherwise, they had no purpose whatsoever and no means of forming one. They had no more an idea of what was involved than a small child who says he will accompany the climbers up the fell. Blackberry's heart sank. What was to be done with them? Left to themselves, they would hop slowly about the shed and the yard until the cats got them. Of their own accord, they could no more run to the hills than fly to the moon. There was no simple, plain idea that might get them, or some of them, on the move. He turned to Clover. I suppose you've never eaten grass by night, he said. It tastes much better than by day. Let's all go and have some, shall we? Oh, yes, said Clover. I like that. But would it be safe? We're all very much afraid of the cats, you know. They come and stare at us sometimes through the wire, and it makes us shiver. This showed at least the beginnings of sense, thought Blackberry. The big rabbit is a match for any cat, he replied. He nearly killed one on the way here tonight. And he doesn't want to fight another if he can help it, said Bigwig briskly. So if you do want to eat grass by the moonlight, then let's go where Hazel is waiting for us. As Bigwig led the way to the yard, he could make out the shape of the cat he had just beaten, watching from a woodpile. Cat-like, it was fascinated by the rabbits and could not leave them alone, but as evidently had no stomach for another fight. As they crossed the yard, it stayed where it was. The pace was frighteningly slow. Boxwood and Clover seemed to have a grasp that where was some sort of urgency and clearly doing their best to keep up. But the other two rabbits, once they hopped into the yard, they sat up and looked around them in a foolish manner, completely at a loss. After a great deal of delay, during which the cat left the woodpile, began to move stealthily around toward the side of the shed. Blackberry managed to get them in the farmyard. But here, finding themselves at even more open place, they settled into a kind of static panic, which is what sometimes comes upon unexpected climbers exposed on a sheer face. They could not move, but sat blinking and staring about them in the darkness taking no notice of Blackberry's coaxing or Bigwig's orders. At this moment, a second cat, Hazel's tabby, Lieutenant Commander, came around the far end of the farmhouse and made toward them. As it passed the kennel, the Labrador awoke and sat up, thrusting out its head and shoulders as it first looked to one side and then the other. It saw the rabbits, ran to the length of its rope, and began to bark. Shut the fuck up, you stupid dog. Come on, said Bigwig. We can't stay here. Up the lane, everybody, and quickly too. Blackberry, Speedwell, Hawkbit ran at once, taking Boxwood and Clover with them into the darkness under the barn. Dandelion remained beside Haystack, begging her to move and expect every moment to feel the cat's claw on his back. Bigwig leaped across to him. Dandelion, he said in his ear, get out of it, unless you want to get killed. But began Bigwig. Do as I say, said Bigwig. The noise of barking was fearful, and him himself was close to panic. Dandelion hesitated a moment longer, and then he left Haystack and shot up the lane with Bigwig beside him. They found the others gathered around Hazel under the bank. Boxwood and Clover was trembling and seemed exhausted. Hazel was talking to them, reassuring, but was broke up as Bigwig appeared out of the darkness. The dog stopped barking, and it was quiet. We're all here, said Bigwig. Shall we go, Hazel? But there were 4 hutch rabbits, said Hazel. Where's the other 2? In the barnyard, said Blackberry. We couldn't do anything with them, and the dog began to bark. Yes, I heard it. You mean they're loose? They'll be lots soon, looser sooner, said Bigwig angrily, and the cats are there. Why did you leave them then? Because they won't move. It was bad enough before the dog started. Is the dog tied? asked Hazel. Yes, it's tied. But what do you expect a rabbit to stand his ground a few feet from an angry dog? No, of course not, replied Hazel. You've done wonders, Bigwig. But they're just telling me before you came how you gave one of the cats a beating that was afraid to come back for more. Now look, do you think you and Blackberry with Speedwell here and Hawkbit, Lieutenant Commander, get these 2 rabbits back to the warren? I'm afraid you may need most of the night. They can't go very fast, and you'll have to be patient with them. Dandelion, you come with me, will you? Where, Hazel, huh? To fetch the other 2, said Hazel. You're the fastest, so it won't be so dangerous for you, will it? Now, don't hang about, Bigwig. There's a good fellow. I'll see you tomorrow. Before Bigwig would reply, he had disappeared under the elms. Dandelion remained where he was, looking at Bigwig uncertainly. Are you going to do what he says? Asked Bigwig. Well, are you? Said Dandelion. It took Bigwig no more than a moment to realize if he said he was not, complete disorganization would follow. He could not take all the others back to the farm, and he could not leave them alone. He muttered something about Hazel being too clever by half, and cuffed Hawkbit off the slow thistle he was nibbling on it and lead his 5 rabbits over the bank into the field. Dandelion, left alone, set off after Hazel into the farmyard. As he went down to the side of the barn, he could hear Hazel out in the open, near the dough haystack. Neither of the hutch rabbits had moved from where he and Bigwig had left him. The dog returned to its kettle, but although it was not to be seen, he felt it was awake and watchful. He came out cautiously out of the shadow and approached Hazel. I'm just having a chat with Haystack here, said Hazel. I've been explaining that we got to go a little way to go, and do you think you could hop across the laurel and get him to join us? He spoke almost galley, but Dandelion could see his dilated eyes and slight trembling of his forepaws. He himself was now sensing something particular, a kind of luminosity in the air. Okay, how to... Okay, kid's gonna go, what is this word? Hey, Mom, the dad, what's this word? L-M-L-U-M, loom, I-N-O, no, icity. In the air. I mean, okay. I guess parents have to make it up, especially if they're not too smart like me. Anyway, okay. There seemed to be a curious vibration somewhere in the distance. He looked around for the cats and saw, as he appeared, both were crouching in front of the farmhouse a little way off. Their reluctance to come closer could be attributed to Bigwig, but they would not go away. Looking across the yard at them, Dandelion felt a sudden clutch of horror. "Hazel," he whispered, "the cats, their breath, their eyes are glittering green. Like that, look!" Hazel sat up quickly, and so did Dandelion, and leaped back in terror, where Hazel's eyes shined a deep, glowing red in the dark. At the moment, the humming vibration grew louder, clinching the rush of the night breeze of the elms. Then all four rabbits sat, though transfixed as sudden blinding light poured over them like cloudbursts. Their very instinct was numb in this terrible glare. The dog's bark became silent once Dandelion tried to move. He could not. The awful brightness seemed to cut into his brain. The car, the Rudel, which had trimmed up the lane and over the brow of the elms, came on a few more yards and stopped. "Lucy's rabbits are out," Lieutenant Command. No, I'm sorry. Lucy's rabbits are out. Oh, better get them quick. Leave the lights on. The sound of men's voices were somewhere beyond the fierce light, brought Hazel to his senses. He could not see nothing, but he realized had happened when his hearing or his nose. He shut his eyes at once and knew where he was at. "Dandelion, haystack. Shut your eyes and run," he said. A moment later, he smelled the lichen and cool moisture of one of the saddlestones. He was under the barn. Dandelion was near him, and further away was Haystack. Outside, the men's group scraped and grated over the rocks. "That's it. Go around 'em. Not far. Pick 'em out then." Hazel moved across the haystack. "I'm afraid we'll have to leave Laurel," he said. "Just follow me." Keeping under the raised floor of the barn, the all three scuttled towards the elm trees. The men's voices were left behind. Coming out of the grass in near lane, they found darkness beyond the headlights, full of fumes of exhaust. A hostile, choking smell that added to their confusion. Haystack sat down once more and could not be persuaded to move. "What shouldn't we leave her, Hazel?" asked Dandelion. "After all, the men won't hurt her. They caught Laurel and taken him back to the hutch." "If it was a buck, I would say yes," said Hazel, "but we need this doe. That's what we came for." At this moment, they caught the smell of burning white sticks and heard the men returning up the farmyard. There was a metallic bumping as they rummaged into the car. The sound seemed to rouse Haystack. She looked around at Dandelion. "I don't want to go back in the hutch," she says. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Yes, I'll go with you." Dandelion immediately turned to the hedgerow. It was the only when he crossed it and reached the ditch. Before beyond, he realized he was on the opposite side of the lane from which they first approached. He was in the strange ditch. However, it seemed to be nothing to worry about. The ditch led down the slope and on the way home. He moved slowly along it, waiting for Hazel to join him. There's old rabbit, look. Look. Wait a minute. Okay. Hazel had crossed the lane a few moments after Dandelion and Haystack. Behind him, he heard the men moving away from the road. The car, the truck, the tractor, the road. The Hooderdale, Lieutenant Commander. Anyway, there's an old wild rabbit. Look, I reckon the rest of ours ain't far off. Get up there and see him. Best we have a look, aye? In the ditch, Hazel overtook Haystack and Dandelion under the clump of the brambles. Get on quick if you can, he said to Haystack. The men are just behind. We can't get on, Hazel, said Dandelion, without leaving the ditch. It's blocked. Hazel snipped ahead. Immediately beyond the brambles, the ditch was closed by a pile of weeds and rubbish. They had come up into the open. Already, the men were over the bank, with torchlight was flickering up and down the hedgerow through the brambles above their very heads. Then, a few yards away, footfalls vibrated the edge of the ditch. Hazel turned to Dandelion. Listen, he said. I'm going to run across that corner of the field from this ditch to the other one, so they'll see me. They'll try to shine that light on me for sure. While you're doing that, you and Haystack climb the bank and get in the lane and run down the swad shed. The Swede shed. And you can hide there, and I'll join you. Ready? And there was almost no time to argue. A moment later, Hazel broke under the men's feet and ran across the field. There he goes! Keep the torch on him then, nice and steady. Dandelion and Haystack scrambled over the bank and dropped down to the lane. Hazel, with the torch beaming behind him, almost reached the other ditch when he felt a sharp blow on one of his hind legs and a hot stinging pain along his side. The report of the cartridge sounded an instant later. He somersaulted into a clump of needles in the ditch bottom. He remembered vividly the scent of bean flowers at sunset. He had not known the men had a gun. He crawled through the nettles, dragging his injured leg. In a few moments, the men would shine their torch on him and pick him up. He scrambled along the inner wall of the ditch, feeling blood flow over his foot. Suddenly, he was aware of a draft against one side of his nose, and the smell of damp, rotten matter and a hollow, echoed sound in his very ear. He was beside a mouth of a land drain which emptied into the ditch. A smooth, cold tunnel, narrower than a rabbit hole, but wide enough. With flattened ears and belly, he pressed the wet floor as he crawled up it. To push a little pile of thin mud in front of him, and he lay still as the thud of boots come nearer. I don't rightly know, John, whether you got him or not. It's all right. There's blood down there, see? Oh, well, that didn't signify he might come a long ways off now. I reckon, you reckon you lost him. I reckon he's in the nettles. I'll have a look. Nah, he ain't. Well, us gotta go baggering up and down after the bloody night. We got to catch them as they got out of the hutch. Didn't ought to fire be right, John. Frighten off, they see. Yeah, come have a look for him tomorrow if he's here. Look at that. Thug life, huh? Fake red hair, tattoos, yeah. And kids, okay. The silence had returned, but Hazel lay motionless in the whispering chill of the tunnel. A cold lasso came over him, and he passed into dreaming, inert stupor, full of cramp and pain. After a time, the thread of thin blood began to trickle over the lip of the drain into the trampled desert ditch. Bigwig, crouched behind Blackberry in the straw of the cattle shed, leaped into flight at the sound of the shot. 200 yards up the lane, he checked himself and then turned to the others. "Don't run," he said quickly. "Where you want to run to anyway? No holes here." "Further away from the gun," replied Blackberry, wide-eyed. "Wait," said Bigwig, listening. "They're running down the lane. Can't you hear them?" "I only hear only 2 rabbits," answered Blackberry after a pause. "And one of them sounds exhausted." They all looked at each other and waited. Then Bigwig got up again. "Stay here, all of you," he says. "I'll go and bring them in." Out on the verge, he found Dandelion urging Haystack, who was lame and spent. "Come here, quickly," said Bigwig. "For Christ's sake, where's Hazel?" The men shot him," replied Dandelion. They reached the other 5 rabbits in the straw, and Dandelion did not wait for the questions. "They shot Hazel," he said. "They caught Laurel and put him back in the hutch. And then they came after us 3. The 3 of us was at the end of a blocked ditch. Hazel went out of his own accord to distract their attention while we got away. But we didn't know they had a gun." "Are you sure they killed him?" said Speedwell. "I didn't actually see him hit, but they were very close to him." "We better wait," said Bigwig. They waited a long time. At last, Dandelion and Bigwig went cautiously back up the lane. They found the bottom of the ditch trampled with boots and streaked with blood, and returned to tell the others. The journey back with 3 limping hutch rabbits lasted more than 2 weary hours. All were dejected and wretched. When they reached the foot of the down, Bigwig told Blackberry, Speedwell, and Hawkbit to leave them and go to the warren. They approached the wood just as first light, and a rabbit ran to meet them in through the wet grass. It was Fiber. Blackberry stopped and waited beside him while the other 2 went on in silence. "Fiber," he said, there's some bad news. Hazel." "I know," replied Fiber. "I know now." How do you know?" asked Blackberry, startled. "As you came through the grass just now," said Fiber very low, "there was a 4th rabbit behind you, limping and covered with blood. I ran to see who it was, and then there was only 3 of you side by side." He paused and looked down across the down, as though still seeking the bleeding rabbit who had vanished in the half-light. Then, as Blackberry had said nothing more, he asked, "Do you know what happened?" When Blackberry told him his news, Fiber returned to the warren and went underground to his empty burrow. A little later, Bigwig had brought the hutch rabbits up the hill and at once called everyone inside the honeycomb. Fiber did not appear. It was a dismal welcome for the strangers. Not even Bluebell could find a cheery word. Dandelion was insultable to think that me might have stopped Hazel from breaking from the ditch. The meeting came to an end in a half-silent, half-hearted souffle. Later that morning, Holly came limping into Warren. Of his 3 companions, only Silver was alert and unharmed. Buckthorn was wounded in the face, and Strawberry was shivering and evidently ill from exhaustion. There was no other rabbits with him. And that is finally the end, Lieutenant Commander, of the raid. Watership down. Told by little old me. And it took forever to get this damn thing done. Anyway, boys and girls, and we all know that the grumpy old guy will be showing up in about 10 to 15 minutes. I finally got a chance to finish this thing. And we're going to go on to another Watership down. If and when the time comes, we will post it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your story of the raid. Watership down, huh?